So it's no secret that I do love a good story, and thankfully the film The Last Thing Mary Saw 2021 has a tremendous story. Originally released back at Fantasia Fest during a pandemic in 2021, and the film was received with great positive reviews, including my own, and the film was thankfully picked up by Shudder, who, by the way, have great taste in films. And the film is arriving exclusively on Shudder as of the 20th of January, which in Australia is tomorrow. And joining me today is, in fact, the film's director and writer. Edoardo, thank you so much for your time and joining me this morning. How you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing great.
Fantastic. And I want to know a little bit about you firstly, and then I'm going to tackle a few questions about the film. And I hope that's okay. Firstly, I wanted to know, are you actually a lover of horror films?
I have become one over the recent years. I think I've always been very interested in, generally speaking, genre movies like thrillers, dark movies, anything that has to do with folklore as well. So, yeah, I mean, at this point, I guess I've been taken, definitely. So, yeah.
Very nice. Now, as I mentioned in this film, you are serving as the film's director and writer. So you definitely
Mhm.
carried a large amount of weight for this film. Do you remember a time in your past where, the desire to write and maybe even direct was sort of birthed? Do you sort of know a moment in time that that sort of started occurring?
I don't know that I can point to a moment in time. I do know that unlike some of the my peers that I, for instance, met in school when I went to film school, it didn't start very early on. Like I didn't know that I wanted to make films until, I mean, I'm 26 now, or in a couple of days, I think around the time when I was 17-ish, so right before college, I realized, oh, maybe movies are kind of a good way to say the things that I want to say, to express myself in the way that I want to express myself. And I was watching a few like different kind of movies, a lot of like the greats from the past a little bit. I think I was around the time I watched The Godfather when I was 17 or 18 that I realized, okay, this would be a cool job to have and a great way to like I said, say the things that I want to say. So yeah.
Tremendous. And one of my favorite questions I like to ask a lot of film directors and writers is, do you actually have a favorite horror movie? What's your all-time
Hmm.
top shelf favorite film?
I don't know. I don't honestly. I don't have a one favorite horror movie. I think
Yep.
there are a few that have informed me and that I think about. There's a great Norwegian film. It's called Thelma that came out a couple of years ago that I think is the one of the better horror films that one of the best horror films that I've seen.
Yep.
Certainly over the past few years. I'm a big fan of Cronenberg. I really like the Brood, which I guess is a horror movie. I don't know. It's hard to
Yeah.
categorize his movies sometimes. I'm actually a big fan of the Blair Witch Project. It's a movie that always is kind of brewing in my mind, even though stylistically, what I have done in The Last Thing Mary Saw and what I do with my writing is definitely less kind of jump scary than that. But
Mm.
I think it's just a master class in horror writing. I'm a big fan of the original Suspiria. That is definitely one of my favorite, I think, films in general, but definitely horror films.
Yeah.
Once again, very very colorful compared to my style, but
Yeah.
I just think it's great. Those are some of the ones that I can think about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. That's great. And these are just a little bit of, tidbits and insights to get to know you better.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
if we talk about The Last Thing Mary Saw, I've seen this film multiple times now. Congratulations. It is a tremendous feature film. And the fact that it is going to Shudder again, what a
Yeah.
way to celebrate your birthday this week. It's all happening. But,
Yeah.
when I watch this film, even on the second or third watch, it's fairly tense. And at times it's actually a little unsettling and it's a little bit
Yeah.
dark. I'm biting my fingernails off. What were some of the key
Good.
ingredients that you utilized that allowed you to achieve this in this film?
I think silence was a big part of it. Having to restrict a lot, to pull back on a lot of the dialogue and a lot of the speaking, because the two characters sometimes they cannot quite talk to one another in front of their family or during the climax of the movie, which I won't spoiler. Of course, there's a big section that's completely quiet, and I think that you realize is words. As a viewer, words make you feel somewhat more settled and comfortable, but when that is stripped away from you, you're kind of left always wondering what's going to happen next, more so. than you would be if people were actually speaking like verbally. So that was a big part of it. I think the lighting does a really good job, and just the performance itself. A big part of it that goes together with silence is the sound design. You know, when you don't have words, you have a lot of scoring and sound design and sound mixing. I think those are like the key ingredients for tension.
Tremendous. Now, this film is actually I guess you might say it's a period piece. And, making a film that's a period piece alone has its own challenges. You've got, the
Hmm.
settings, you've got the costuming, you've got the way that people talk and obviously act. What gave you the idea that when you were making this film, right, it's got to be a period piece, it's got to be set in this certain time frame? What sort of
Right.
gave you the idea to want to achieve that in this film? And you have achieved it tremendously, but what made you want to go for that?
Thank you so much. I was I think it was a combination, a little bit of kind of independent research and studying that I was doing, both about art history around that time period, 19th century, especially Northern European art history, and a lot of visual threads about empty houses, sunburst scenarios, funerals, a lot of that. That kind of made me want to make a movie that looked like that felt like that. A lot of it was, when you look at the history of the Northeast of the United States, especially New York State, there's a great kind of resurgence of Christian sort of puritanical sentiments. New York State was, especially upstate, was known as the burnt over district because it was burning with religious fervor in the mid 19th century. And so the two things kind of came together, and I was like, oh, I would really like to go back there and explore that. So it was part of it. And conveniently, people are now doing constructions right next to my apartment. So if you hear a weird noise, it's that.
All good. We welcome the noise. Like I said, I got two kids, so they might interrupt us before your noise next door does.
Terrific.
The cast of this film, holy moly, they are excellent, tremendous. I could go on forever about them. The cast here is really great. Just out of curiosity, from your point of view, how did the cast go, working on this film? I mean, they're tremendous, obviously, but, how
Yeah.
did they go? Because obviously, again, there's a lot of dark and unsettling, intense moments. Yeah, I'd love to hear some feedback about the cast and crew. How'd they go?
Yeah, I mean, my cat. I was working with excellent actors, and they're such good people too. And I think, I mean, we went about finding Mary's character first. Of course, we were working with Stephanie Scott first, who is a great actress. She was very curious about the project. She was curious she was curious about the period aspect of it. Definitely, the script was very unsettling, and she didn't have a lot of dialogue, which is something that excited her. Similarly, with Isabel Furman, who was curious about the project and liked the script, and also had been wanting to work with Stephanie because they had been friends for a little while.
Wow, there you go.
And yeah, and so that also, from a director's perspective, having two characters that already have like kind of built-in chemistry because they know each other is very important. Rory was super psyched about it. He was just kind of, he didn't, he was, I think the first time that we talked, he was like, I read it a few times, and I feel like I'm just getting lost in the weirdness of it, and I just want to be a part of it. And
Wow.
he brings the weird into it for sure,
Oh
as
yeah.
a character, and as a character's personality. I mean, the weird as much as the dark and the despicable. And so, I mean, it was great. They're all actors who have a great kind of work, the body of work, and a great track record within the horror genre. They've made a lot of movies, and they could kind of help me settle into the experience of making your first movie, which is very stressful.
Yeah.
So they were awesome. I mean, they're also, especially the two girls, who had a lot of quiet scenes where they had to say a lot without saying it. I mean, they're great, just nonverbal actors.
Yeah,
So yeah,
and that's
it was a
again,
treat.
that's definitely evident on screen. It's quite interesting to think that some of the best thrills and chills occur when no
Yeah,
one's talking, and I can imagine that drives the audience
yeah,
crazy while watching the film. I love it.
yeah. Yeah.
You've obviously just released your first feature film, and again, it's been a successful journey. I'm so excited and happy for you. There's a lot of people within Australia right now they're currently writing, they're trying to direct their first film, they're hoping
Yeah.
to launch their first film, might not necessarily be horror, but I just wanted to get your opinion. What sort of advice would you want to give someone out there who's trying to crack out their first film, or, you know, currently working on a film as a writer? What sort of
Yeah.
feedback or advice would you like to give them, just out of curiosity, with your experience?
In my experience, when, especially if you're a writer director, it's just to never, just to be absolutely relentless about how good you can make your script before you show it to people. Because I think, I mean, it is very hard to find the right person to show your script to, a person who can take a chance on you, and that just, it's part ability with networking and part luck. We just have to be kind of honest about it.
Yep.
But I think the one thing that definitely happens is, if you have something, if you have material that's like, that just, if you crack the code on the script, you know, people don't turn down good material, like material that is so good that deserves to be a movie. And so even when you think that your script is good, just have someone else read it and keep getting feedback on it and keep rewriting it. Just never kind of stop rewriting it, for sure.
Tremendous advice. Thank you so much for that. I'm sure many people within Australia are definitely going to appreciate that. And look, I'm going to come up to a bit of a summary and a close. Once again, I really do appreciate your time this morning. It's been a true honor to meet you. Again, I thoroughly enjoy this film. So I guess you might say I feel like a kid at a toy shop, very filled with excitement to meet you. So thank you so much. And as a friendly reminder, ladies and gentlemen, that if you would like to know what makes you shudder, this January the 20th is the time to subscribe to Shudder and check out The Last Thing Mary Saw. So coming up to one last, I guess, couple of sentence or quotes, why should the people of Australia check this film out as a final close? What would you recommend?
I mean, check it out. I would love to, I would love to know what you guys think, and I would love to kind of take you down this weird and dark and twisted journey, and see, you know, kind of experience a story that hopefully doesn't say too many words, but says a lot of things in the meantime. And I think that that is the kind of movie that I like to watch, and hopefully people like to watch the same type of movie too, and they find that in The Last Thing Mary Saw. So yeah.
Beautiful. Perfectly said. Eduardo, thank you once again for your time. Again, wishing you all the very best with your film as it comes out on Shudder, once again, 20th of January. And you, sir, please have a good and safe birthday as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's so nice talking to you.
Likewise. All the best. Thank you once again. Bye.